Well, that time has come in our One Club Build a Nation story for our first season review of the save. We're going to look back on our first year in charge. We're going to get ready for our transfer plans in the summer. Going to be quite hard as an amateur club. And we're also going to have a look at a couple of key areas that will help us make decisions. The brand new squad planner and the updated data hub. Yes, hello and welcome along to part 9 of Lifting Spirits with me, Daniel. We're back with Distillery at the end of season 1 after disappointment at the end of the last episode. But for those of you that haven't been here before for one of our long-term One Club stories, this is something we do at the end of every season. We get you involved and have a little look at our summer transfer plans, what we'd like to do with the squad, albeit it's very hard at this amateur level. And we also utilise a couple of features to look at certain aspects of the club behind the scenes. Now, later down the line, that's probably going to become finances, development, etc. But for today, the two features we're going to be looking at are the brand new squad planner to help us with our summer transfer work, and also the data hub to see the upgrades for FM23 and try and work out why we're so inconsistent. So if you're looking forward to all of that and want to see if you agree with my summer transfer plans, then please do put a thumbs up on the video. Subscribe for daily FM23 content from 2 long-term stories. Of course, we'll be back with the head coach later today. Don't miss it. It's deadline day in that one. We're also live on Twitch every day during the beta. The link's in the eye above. But let's get straight to Distillery, because there is a lot for us to talk about here. It's a bit more of a relaxed pace today as we go through some of the stuff behind the scenes. But first and foremost, we need our end of season review. So let's skip through to tomorrow morning and get the official one from the club. And here we are for the season review. With 1 trophy under our name, it could have been 2, it should have been 2. But it's just the Steel and Sons Cup. Let's reflect on our inconsistent year officially as we look at the signings, who largely were brilliant. Some of these were in before we got here, Mark McKee being a key one. But if you look at the likes of Grimley at centre-half, very solid. Maybe not good enough for the next level. Graham for the future, Healy, Barr. I mean, the youngsters on loan did really well. And that's going to be a key point of the future, with us having no financial budget. In terms of transfers out, we let a few go. There were a few that went before us as well. And that one, Conlon at the top, has done very well elsewhere. But he wasn't released by us. He was already out of the club. So let's get through to the season results, because I'm sure the transfers will get more spectacular as we go along. Our home form cost us at the start of the season, our away form more towards the end of it. Just the 5 cups we were involved in this year, we didn't do that well in some of them. But to be fair, the ones with the teams at our level, we were largely very good at. You look at those runs though, look at the inconsistency. 3 wins, 6 without a win, 3 wins in 4. Then towards the end of the season, we went 6 unbeaten, and then we lost 3 in 5. It's just so flaky, that form. We've got to find a solution, particularly away from home where we were struggling to win games. Only 1 in this calendar year so far, and even then we let in 2 goals. It's just not good enough if we want to get to the top. The good news is, looking at the consistency of the league, it's very tight, it's very compact. So we're only 8 points off second. It's only going to take minor improvements for us to be in that playoff position. That's what we've got to focus on next year, but it could get harder. We'll get to why later. The Irish Cup, we were put out by second tier Ballyclare. We knew that was going to be a tough tie. In the League Cup, we went out to the police service in Northern Ireland. That was our first game in charge and it was shocking. In the Shield, we went out to Ballymena. That was a brilliant game. We watched it on camera. And then, of course, we won the Steel and Sons Cup brilliantly and lost in the final to Linfield Swifts, the reserve side of our parent club, in the Intermediate Cup final. So let's go and get through the moments to remember. The biggest win, a 5-1 away from home in the Cup in extra time. 1-1 after 90 minutes, and then they just really ran out of steam. And in fact, it was 1-1 at half-time in extra time as well. Match to remember, a win at Bangor. That was our first game in charge. We showed that on camera for sure. Aaron Brown and Jordan Shearer there. And then goal of the season came in a 4-1 win in the Irish Cup. And it was Aaron Brown again, who, spoiler alert, won't be with us next season after all the fuss he's caused this year. Let's get through the finances because the club stays half a star reputation. There's not a lot of money here. I mean, there's basically no merchandise. 166 quid is 4 shirts, isn't it? In terms of the best 11, Bennett is still there. The man we let go in January on the right wing. He is now at Limavady United. The rest of the team, though, pretty much picks itself. A slight surprise perhaps that Josh Lynch stays in above Lewis Barr, but he was only on loan from the end of January, and in the rest of it, you could probably name. It's a very, very average squad. We've got to, though, focus on the positives, which is we've got a brilliant number 10 in Mark McKee. If we can keep Leon Boyd as well, we've got a real threat next year. Through the accolades, I don't think there was much to remember here. McKee basically gets a clean sweep as you'd expect. Grimley won signing of the season, Aaron Brown goal of the year. And in terms of everything else, Johnny Snoddy became youngest player out of the academy. And clean sheets, Ethan Carey got 12. But history in the making, as we did win a trophy. That is something we should reflect on positively. We were expected to finish mid-table, we crept into the top half, and we won a competition. Trophies are what you're remembered by, and I'm happy enough with that. Now, we're going to get through to the dynamic manager timeline. We had it in the head coach, and I wasn't particularly pleased with it, to be honest, because it just showed transfers. And that's not really what I'd like to see on there. I want a bit more diversity. Let's see what it's like on here. Well, it is a little bit better. There's still too much in terms of the signings. They should only really focus on key ones, in my opinion. But the welcome aboard, the winners win, set a new club record of 4 wins in a row. That's something we didn't have in the other save for obvious reasons. Winning the cup is in there. Is the defeated cup final in there? No. So that's definitely where it's got to improve a bit. A free agent backup goalkeeper signing isn't more important than losing a cup final. So I love the idea of it. I love the way it's laid out. But it just maybe needs to work on what events are in there. But otherwise, a very good season. And there's one man listed on there who hasn't even joined the club yet. We talked about him yesterday. Let's finish that though, get through to the end of the season, because there are 2 key areas I want to focus on here. And you're going to have your say as well. Let me know in the comments as we go along what you think of what I say. We are a largely amateur squad as we head over to the squad planner. And it does lead to some problems. Partly because we're getting players picked off all the time. We're ending up with a squad where we're not quite sure who we're going to have from week to week. Whether we're going to lose 5, keep 5, have any money to sign someone on a pay-as-you-play or not. And that leaves a little bit of jeopardy. It also leads to some problems with the squad planner in FM23. Because it's something I've noticed with this save and none other. Is that having amateur contracted players causes real problems with the squad planner. It manages to pick up anyone who's on a contract at the club, but even if you add players in on the current season who have got an amateur contract, it's very inconsistent whether they stay there or not. So we're going to load up the save again from where we started in this episode, because we had it prepared there, and I'll show you what it looks like. And here we go. This is our squad planner as it stands at the end of our first season. Now, I'll show it on full squad view so we can talk it through in detail. I've made a couple of executive decisions ahead of next season though. First and foremost, anyone under 3-star ability will not be paid to play here. And that is a strict rule unless they're a huge improvement on what we can find in a senior squad. I'm also not going to pay players to be backups. So that means the likes of Josh Boyd next year, probably going to go. Luke Grimley at the back, probably going to go. And there's a few other positions where we've got decisions to make. Not sure why Karai Quinn is still in at right back. Let's get him out. But this is where we are at the moment. What I'm sort of edging towards for next year, and I don't know if you agree with me or not, is that I want to get a really strong first team in. If it means we have to go largely for loanies, then so be it. And we probably will, because let's be honest, the budget we've got is going to cover 3-4 players on paid terms. And then after that, the backup players, if need be, can be youth players. We've got Leon McNichol. We've got Johnny Snoddy. You can see Topko in the midfield there. Mallon and Buchanan wingers. Andrew Miller number 10. Those sorts of players can definitely be backups because we haven't had to rotate that much this year. If we can get in a core 11 plus maybe 3 players that can rotate and come into the squad decently, I think the rest can be youth players. I want to have a strong team rather than a strong squad. Now, we have got some good news in the core of our squad, which is a good goalkeeper. Craig Farquhar's here next year. Withers is here. We know that Mark McKee potentially will be going, but if he stays, he's a great player to have. We have still got some weaknesses, though. I'm undecided on Matthew Lynch in the middle. We need to probably try and tie down Healy or maybe get somebody else in on the right wing. We've got Bobby Harvey coming in at the back, which is a massive plus. However, that's offset by Aaron Smith declining at a huge rate of knots. Whether or not he might even retire, I don't know, because he's declining as quick as Curly was. However, there are some big deficits in this team. Centre half, centre midfield, areas in that spine where we've just looked so vulnerable at times this season. We're losing loan players at the end of the year. We know in centre midfield, one of those is Lewis Barr, who is a regular starter. And at the moment, as it stands, Healy will be going, and so will Leon Boyd up front. Now it doesn't look quite so good, does it? If Leon Boyd does not agree to stay, we are going to have to spend all of our budget on a striker. Now, to make that happen, we then probably have to get rid of Grimley, and we might even have to get rid of Matthew Lynch. And then what do we do? Because we're going to need to get loan players in, or we're going to have a very weak area in the squad. So this is where we have the problem of not having a budget compared to some other clubs. We desperately need to have strength in depth in midfield. It's the one area we got really caught out this year. And at centre half, it's been a struggle throughout. But if we can find one from Linfield perhaps, maybe we have a different conversation then. So that's my thoughts on the squad planner. Let me know what you think of it. Fingers crossed Leon Boyd will stay. At the moment, he's got no intention of renewing his loan. Lewis Barr out of contract at his club. He won't come and join us, and we can't afford him anyway. So it's pretty grim viewing, but it's the reality of the situation. So Bobby Harvey looks like he's going to be a great signing, but it's going to need to be a few more, and some inspired ones at that. Before we go and get into the data hub to finish off though, let me show you very quickly something I'm umming and ahhing about in the scouting, which you've mentioned before, but I'm thinking about it later this summer. Do we next season, down the scouting range, have less of an option of players to get? Because we've now got one of the best clubs from the top tier offering us loan players. And do we then throw that into the wage budget? I've worked it out. It gives us about 150 quid a week extra, which essentially is 3 players on pay-as-you-play deals. And that will take us from having 3 or 4 to having 6 or 7, which could be the difference between 6th and 2nd. So I'll be interested to know if you think I should do that, as we're going to go and set up our recruitment focuses for the summer soon. It will be centre mid, it will be centre half, centre forward, the 3 key areas. But for now, let's finish off with a look at the data hub, because there's been a few updates to it this year, and it's something I did use a lot last year when I was struggling, and at times when I was doing very well. This year though, we've been incredibly inconsistent. So let's just try and pick it apart in the key areas and see if there's anything that explains our situation, other than the poor standard of players. So here we are in the data hub. We're going to look at the 3 key wheels: general performance, team attacking and team defending. If you do have any struggles with the data hub, I did a massive special on it last year, how to use it, how to interpret it. You can find it in the eye above. There are some other specials linked to it as well. But let's start with general performance, because overall, as you can see for the league, we're basically average everywhere. The things we're slightly better at is pass completion, which, considering we're playing a shorter game, isn't a surprise, but it's still not a great rating. Now, the big standout thing, of course, is expected goals per game to goals per game. Now, the issue with that is that it seems to be a little bit broken this year, partly because every free kick's going in, but also because the chances just aren't equating to XG, so I'm not sure we read too much into that. However, we have got to be concerned that we're conceding far more than is expected per game as well. So that's something we're going to look into in a defensive wheel, see if there's any explanatory factors, but if not, we might just have to upgrade the players. I think that's probably the long and short of it. So nothing really stand out. We're pretty average when it comes to general performance. Let's quickly go through the attacking, because that's something we've generally done quite well at this year. Expected goals is down, but shots per game is average. Shots on target percentage is good. Goals is good. We've won a lot of fouls against us per game. And then you look at the service, the dribbles, the pass completion, the cross completion, much higher than the average for this league. So we are looking a very good side going forward, and there's no surprises by that. Our front 4 is significantly better than our back 4, and I would expect the stats to show it. The issue is defending. The problem I have is less interceptions, less blocks and less clearances by game. And that makes me think we've perhaps got an explanation as to why we're conceding more than is expected for the league. The other thing I want to know is why we're making so few fouls. Now, that's crucial because it means we're giving away less set pieces. You can see the league average is 2.26 more than Distillery. The further out is better in this instance. But is it then having an impact that we're not getting close enough to make those blocks, those interceptions and those clearances? Because that is an area where you can partly blame defensive positioning. I've spoken for years and years on this channel about why a defensive positioning stat is so important, and that attribute being low is having a big impact. There's no doubt about that. Are the clearances due to a lack of heading ability, a lack of height at the back? We're losing a lot of headers in there. What's the lack of blocks and interceptions due to though? Is it just positioning? Is it marking? Is it tackling? Is it our game plan? Because we're on a pretty standard formation and tactic. The instructions aren't really standout and they shouldn't be contributing to that. So I think what we're getting from these stats is A, our defence is nowhere near as good as our attack. B, we perhaps need to get players that have got better positioning and better heading. And C, where we're playing out from the back, yes, it's potentially working, but is it affecting the clearances? Is it getting us more trouble than it's getting us reward? That is a big question that we've got to answer. So I'll probably be looking in a bit more detail at some of the defending. I'll also be watching back a couple of the games to see what happened in them for key moments. But if you look at some of our defenders, they are actually rated pretty well. The clearances per 90 minutes for Grimley is above the league average. The headers one is above the league average. The blocks, significantly above the league average. So I don't really know where the fault is because he on paper is my weakest defender and his stats look great. So there's going to be an awful lot of work that I need to do into this. This isn't one of those that's clear cut. And with Grimley being someone who's probably going to go this summer, he's not rated that well and he's getting a big appearance fee. We're going to have to replace him with someone better and someone who can contribute even more than that because the rest of the team ain't doing it. So always fun to go to the data hub, especially when you don't get the clear answer you're hoping for. But if we go through to the squad just to finish off, I'll show you what I'm going to do for now. I'm going to go and put these players in the first team squad by those I expect to be at the club next year. And then of our 22 positions, if we were to have 2 in each, we'll see how many gaps there are left. So as it stands, bar a couple of youth players potentially coming onto the bench, that's what we've got. A first 11 that includes players I don't want playing. Let me switch Josh Lynch and Ballantyne just to make it look a little better. But Jordan Shearer, current backup striker. Lynch, current backup midfielder. Aaron Smith declining very quickly. Ethan Warnock, pretty average this year. They are players that I'm not sure in the long term we want to be relying on for promotion. I know we've got Bobby Harvey to come in. He's an excellent solution. But other than that, there is a lot of work to do and a lot of gaps in this pretty bleak squad. So we're going to be reliant on loan players. It's not something I like to do, but it is something I've got to bear in mind. We've not got the budget to go and get players. We can't physically bring players in for nothing, including no appearance fee as well. So we're going to have to suck it up and try and get promoted that way. Get ourselves some good loans, get ourselves a few cheaper players and say goodbye to a lot of those in the reserves that are earning money and not really contributing. Josh Boyd, Luke Grimley, Aaron Brown, I don't expect them to be here next year. But that's my thoughts on this summer at Distillery. What do you think about my plans? What do you think about the data hub information? Has it told us anything that might solve our problem? And all in all, do you think we're going to be in a stronger or weaker position next year? It's the hardest thing to predict with amateur players. If we lose the players who are wanted, Warnock, Lynch, McKee, then we might be in big trouble. If we keep them, we start to look a very decent team. Because all we've then got to do is add 3 or 4 around them. Let me know which you think is more likely to happen. And if you did enjoy this season review, please do chuck a thumbs up on it. Subscribe for daily FM23 videos from 2 long-term stories. The head coach is back with transfer deadline day later today. And then we're back for a new season with Distillery at the same time here tomorrow. There's links to other playlists and the Twitch channel up in the eye above. Please do come and check them out. And there's also ways to support the channel, including being a member here if you wish. But thank you very much for watching. I do appreciate you joining our first season at Distillery. Hopefully the second one's going to be a bit more consistent and in a positive way as well. Can we get up into that playoff place? Join me tomorrow to find out if it starts in style.